All right, hey everybody, Austin here with Dice. Today we're gonna go with the flow. Zoom is going to hold structure for us, and we're gonna flow into it. How you been doing, man?
Good. It's been interesting since we last talked. Actually, it's been an interesting navigation. One of the
Yeah.
things has been around communication. Last I talked to you, I was part of a session, like an online Zoom session, and I felt like I really struggled through it. I was hosting the call, and I felt like I was losing my ability to be able to communicate. And it was a moment of, it felt like I derailed maybe what my intentions were around the call and like how I wanted to communicate. And I was in a self-critical space. And talking to you, and ever since, it's been a really awesome exploration of being able to see myself and all the things that came up, and also shift that into what do I want to do about it? What actions do I want to take? And it's been a lot of like communicating. So then when I got another chance to be in a space to communicate or be on calls, I made the decision to show up more confidently and just do a few things to support that. So that's where I've been this past week, of exploring like communicating and leaning into communicating, just working on that skill, being in spaces of being seen, just like this, having a conversation and knowing when to pause and listen to my body while I'm in the conversation, and that kind of thing. Even on Zoom, like doing things to help me out. I removed self view, so to say. I don't want to be
I
staring at.
I remember sometimes I'll like forget what my point, or I'll forget and I'll just keep talking. But what I've noticed now is I'll be like, "Hey, I lost my train of thought," and I'll acknowledge that instead of rambling about nothing. And I find that's pretty helpful. And then also people are like, "Oh, you were talking about this, and maybe you were going here, or we'll just go to something else." And I think that's okay. I think sometimes, like, we grew up in an era where, like, showing up online on the TV was very, like, production and perfect. And I think now sometimes people want to feel and see themselves there of what they're walking through too. And part of that is like, how can you walk through stumbling or not feeling 100% and like continuing on in a way that is okay.
Yeah, like being in person with people. It's like we're live. It's happening. Whatever way
Right.
we communicate is what we communicate. Yeah, that interesting aspect of being on a screen or being on a in a space where, like, for me, like in that moment, seeing myself and just getting thrown off by that, because it's it's like it's interesting to
Well,
see yourself back, as you're talking. So this kind of online era has brought new things to the table. um,
also, like when I was teaching over the pandemic, I had never, a lot of the kids wouldn't come on camera. And so I was like looking at a screen of myself, and that was like really awkward for a long time. And then I got used to it and I liked it because then I could like see myself and work on my presentation of the material or whatever I'm doing. But at the same time, I think it creates some like Zoom fatigue because we're not usually looking at ourselves that long.
yeah, wow, absolutely. And I had a lot of experience teaching in the pandemic as well,
Right.
teaching music and with black Zoom screens, sometimes with group classes. And I agree with what you're saying. It can feel sometimes like you're speaking into the void. Sometimes, though, surprisingly, they were very receptive, though there was no direct feedback, and just presented a different relationship to being in front of other people, and also getting that feedback of yourself in the moment. And ultimately, what has come down to for me is I just want to be able to share or communicate whatever I am in the context that I am in, and just have clarity on the message that I'm saying. And I do what you said, being able to move with the flow, right? And it doesn't have to be produced or perfect. We can be human still. But for me, it's like being in tune with my nervous system in the moment, and so that I can be in an authentic space. And like
Right.
when that gets tilted, it's that's when um yeah, I can start moving into the self-critical space. So it's an interesting thing to, okay, I'm gonna lean beyond that and not just like recoil at my perceived failure in a moment or something like that.
I was just watching a video that one of Shelly's very first coaches had ever worked with. Sent a video over and was like, "Hey, check this out." And it's basically talking about a spectrum of marketing and a spectrum of yourself. And what people really want to see from you is you being yourself, your most authentic, true, nerdy, geeky, excited, not excited self, whatever that looks like, and showing up as authentically as possible because that will resonate the most with people who also want to be authentic and resonate as authentically as possible as you. And that takes time though. Show up. I think with my first YouTube I posted was me going into an ice bath with swim trunks at 330 pounds. And that took some courage to put that out there. I was like, fuck it, I gotta do this. And my coach for fitness and spiritual stuff was like, it'd be selfish of you to not show this information that you know. And I was like, damn, that hit me hard. That was Liz Letchford of the Body Church that I've been to the dance I've been telling you and Annika about. And happy belated birthday to Annika. I've been meaning to message her, but that's when I want to say something more tailored to someone. You guys have been doing some podcasts with us and stuff. I need to sit with it and then say it, not just like happy birthday.
Like on that end of things, like with birthdays and celebrations, that can be such a ebb and flow of communicating that type of thing. I think maybe that's something that's everyone navigates because everyone has people in their lives with birthdays and there's holidays. I can struggle with that. And sometimes if things line up, I'm in the moment and it's just I can lay down like a message or a card or something to that extent. And then there's times where, you know, it I'm not in a place to be able to do that, or we forget, or it doesn't align. And it's like learning to be also okay with all that, like to know that the things like that we do share with people are valid and valuable in like those times, and also it's not always possible to hit everyone with a personalized like
Yeah,
message in the
like the
moment.
Facebook one, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. But yeah, like, but also sometimes, yeah, and sometimes it might be there. And
Hmm.
sometimes it might, I need to think about it. And if I want to be authentic as possible, sometimes I might need space to do that. And my wife had this friend back in the day, a nurse friend, and she was probably like, I don't know, 5, 10 years older than my wife, 10 to 15 older than me. And she's, oh no, I celebrate the whole birthday month. And I'm like, this bitch is so fucking frivolous, high maintenance. Oh my God. And then now I'm like getting a little older and I was like, okay, I'm going to lean into the birthday week. Okay. And so a few years ago, I started that because you know what? There's not enough of me to go to lunch with everybody on one day. There's not enough breakfast, lunches, and dinners in one day. And so the week was a little better. And then I was born on the 11th of the month. And so then I started doing the 11 days of my birthday. And then one month I did an entire month of my birthday. And I was like, that was a little much for me. But at least that little window of 11 days, or if let's say you're born on like the 25th, right? That might feel too much. But today is July 25th. So maybe 7 days feels good for you. So it's like, how can you allow celebration of your life and your solar return so that more people can like celebrate you? And I think you do that by not being like, my birthday is only on one day and one day only. And that's all scarcity mindset shit. And it's, can we ebb and flow with the birthday and be like, hey, I was thinking about you on your birthday, but I'm very busy and I wanted to see how you're doing and blah, blah, blah. So that's just how I feel right now.
No, yeah, it's like you have to get spreading out the energy over a longer period of time. So it's not all this all or nothing. And there's an
Yeah.
element of that with the holidays and specific days and styles. Something that I picked up at Condor Approach from Ogi's son was about cycles, right? And the cycles that we have during a year and certain times and around our birthdays. And one of the things was like celebrating your birthday for about 10 days. It was something like that. It was like
Okay.
10 days, and I don't know the exact breakdown. And it happened to line up like right after the event for me. And I was like, I'm gonna lean into that and really take this like celebration, like I'm gonna let it ride. And it felt natural. It felt like this is the moment to do that around your birthday and carry out like before birthdays at the
And
epicenter.
like,
Keep it rolling.
and the other thing too is I used to expect everybody else to plan for my birthday, right? And I'm like, then I would get disappointed and then I would get mad. And I'm like, no, fuck this. I'm in charge of my birthday. There is time and space for me to let go, but there's also time and space for me. Oh no, this is going to happen and I'm going to let people know. Because my birthday, May 11th, right? It's often during finals week, end of the semester stuff, like AP testing, whatever. My birthday is often on Mother's Day, and sometimes that can create conflicts because I want to celebrate my birthday and it's also Mother's Day. Or sometimes it can be like it's Mother's Day and my birthday, and that's extra cool. So there's the push and the pull of that too. And by allowing more time to not have, like you said, why does it have to be all or nothing? Could it be all and everything? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have a party. It's this day at this time, and then let all the other details come in. So it's like building the structure for the flow and allowing to be celebrated, right? There's a lot of time that I was spent. I didn't want I didn't want that much attention on me. Like being like bigger or fat or overweight, I was like hiding from the attention, but I wanted celebration. And now I'm kind of like, I want celebration. Like, why would you not? It's you completed another year. You've gone through all the seasons.
And I can relate to that. And
Okay.
I definitely, if I'm being real, do struggle with birthdays and my own. And I've gotten to that state of not wanting attention, not really sharing. Well, don't want to tell people that don't know my birthday, or but having this secret hope, like oh, maybe people might know. Or it's an interesting space. So I really actually I feel like I have a whole different construct around birthdays because I felt maybe more like neutral, or I didn't really connect with me like until later in time. And things around
When
like
is your birthday?
my birthday's September 18th.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah. So it's a tricky space for me that I've learned to, I don't know, I'm still learning. I'm still navigating it. And sometimes I toggle into that space you're talking about. But yeah, just allowing yourself to be celebrated, that can be challenging because there's a internal shame device. That's what it feels like. And that can be deeply rooted in something. So then in that moment of feeling like I'm not worthy or I'm not this or I'm not that, you might minimize or hide yourself in the process. So I think that comes with the I don't want to be celebrated, or I don't want people to know my birthday. For me, some part of me was carrying a level of shame, so I'm not allowing that celebration. Even when sometimes people attempt, am I even able to receive that if I'm not in
Yeah.
a space
No,
of
I totally feel that. I've been through that. I don't know why. I was like, I had a virtual assistant for a while, and I was like, I saw somebody else post in their stories. It was their birthday every day for a month. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And so we made like Instagram story templates for every single day. And then every single day I started the day with that. And then I posted whatever else I wanted to post. And I was in it heavy duty for a month. There were parts of it that was like, man, why did I say I was gonna do this shit? This is too much. And then, or am I being too much for them? Or am I being too much for myself? Am I being too egomaniacal about all this? Or am I just celebrating myself? Or did I commit to something and I want to finish it? And so all those emotions and feelings that kind of came up that you're talking about, that shit came up heavy duty when I was posting shit every fucking day. Because I was like, what am I doing? Am I like trying to use my birthday to sell? Am I trying to use my birthday to push my message? Am I just showing up? What am I doing? And I think at the end, it's the summation or the integration of all of those highs and the lows, and like figuring out all of that is you, right? There's things that we don't say or don't do because someone else has told us not to, or it's part of in our genes to not do it. And then there's other parts of it that you're like, yeah, I really want to do this. And so you do it, and then you feel like torn because it's a little outside the norm. Or you're like, what does my family and friends think about it? And then it's, wait, I'm just going to show up authentically as possible. And I'm just going to be me through the whole month. And I thought that was really interesting to see because we often heard like, oh, men just have a 24-hour cycle. But then in that month of me keeping track and posting every day, I was noticing like, had the build up to my birthday and like the climax of my birthday on like the 11th. And then some things happened and crashed down and then built back up. And I'm like, oh, men have monthly cycles too. We just don't. We're just a little disconnected from them.
Man, it's awesome that you did that and stayed with it and were able to ride like the highs and lows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's so much to learn about yourself and about the relationship of just all of that. It's going to bring up a lot, and that's where, yeah, it can be. That's a courage space to be able to set the intention and stick with it, and then see what comes as a result. Like I can easily vacillate in sharing something from a euphoric state to a mega crash. So even like on something like my birthday, if people are expressing things towards me, like that can really sometimes throw me off. I could be in a really like expanded space, and next thing I know, I'm like, oh my God, what does this mean? I go back and forth. But learning to look at that as information and just looking at what is it that it brings up, like in me or my relationship to what's going on, is that's so valuable to learn. So anything
Well,
like that, especially with visibility right now
yeah.
online, I feel is so valuable when even if it's like you're trying something new, you it's something that like you haven't done before and you're throwing it out there. I like respect and uh, people that are experimenting, trying new things, jumping into new arenas because it takes work. Yeah, it can seem automatic or easily. And also, it can bring up all these challenges and communicating what are we sharing, the whole too much, not enough, right? Like it can turn on our that shame device. And for me, what I've realized in my like journey of understanding myself is that those kind of shame parts or that is rooted so sometimes so like deeply and so subconsciously that it can like it's like weeds in the garden. It can still be tapped into certain things. And in the spaces of being like witnessed or celebrated, they can come online and show themselves up. And it's interesting in a thing like a holiday or a birthday when you're supposed to be celebrating something, but that part of yourself is like feeling vulnerable. And you can be in those moments of this surreal feeling of having to hold the contradictions of it's my birthday, but what does that mean? What?
This is interesting too. Shelly was saying like around 4th of July, she was like really intense in her emotions. Like there was a lot going on, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" Like I'm like, "Are you gonna do some work or what are you doing?" And she's like, "I just like a lot of feelings and emotions going on," and I'm like, "Okay, let's think back to 4th of July, plus or minus 5 days for your whole life. Like what was going on?" As you're a kid, it's usually like pool parties and fireworks or whatever, and then teenager, adult, and then being an ER nurse. Usually she saw people getting hurt, right? And or drinking and hurt, or she was drinking. And so it's all these different things came up around that date. Similar can happen with a birthday around the same time every year, plus or minus 5 days, 10-day spread. It's like the energy of your solar return. And maybe you've had good birthdays, maybe you've had bad birthdays, maybe you've had a big awareness, maybe you've been upset or whatever. And I think sometimes like your body knows seasonally where you're, and like those emotions can come up again because your body is aware of this humidity, the temperature. And I think sometimes your body relives those temporarily in those ranges of dates. And
Uh,
it, yeah,
no, please keep going. That's just really that's deep. That's some real deep stuff that you have to map it out to be able to get the full scope. And it's like your body is so aware and it's moving through so many things in that cyclical fashion, like circadian rhythms, for example. Like our body is has so many processes and so many awarenesses, and it is moving through these cycles, and our mind might not have the recollection to like remember every like the aggregate data of it, but it is stored in our body. That's really interesting to map out like a date like that.
yeah,
Like a charged one, right? Whether it's your birthday or something that feels like charged, and peeling that back and looking through the eras. Because even as you mentioned, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes down. And then
and
the external factors, like you mentioned, sometimes it's Mother's Day for your birthday, like what
mhm,
that it's almost like orbits, and then those things can get closer together and really be on top of
yeah,
one another.
yeah, good imagery. Thank you.
I'm gonna close this door real quick. Hold
Yeah,
on. Okay.
yeah. So I think also by taking the time to check in with those dates ranges over the years or eras, like you were saying, gives you the opportunity to make sense of the past and the present and moving forward and being in the moment by honoring them. And oh yeah, I remember all that stuff, but today we're in the moment, and we're gonna focus on enjoying these moments today. And that could be not just a birthday, that could be any notable day or a holiday or whatever. And I think that's something interesting to check out, especially if you suddenly feel like very emotional or around certain times of the year or certain dates, and just lean into that.
Yeah, there's so many like influences or things in a certain moment that might be occurring that we uh, aren't always like aware of the totality of all of it. It could be things from the past or a current set of whether it's sometimes it's galactic, it's like the cosmos are in a particular pattern, or it's like societal, or it's personal, or there's all these different like layers in a single moment of what could be happening, and then being present to be aware of that. I'm getting this like image of because the at any given point things in the universe are at different relationships and just like energetic patterns moving through the universe that we are relating to, that is like hitting us, and then there's like our internal state as well. And then like they meet and interact as we have this like our internal world and like the external cosmic thing, like they relate to each other. So it's like when we might not always be like aware of what might be happening externally, so the more present we are with ourselves, though, the more we're capable of meeting the moment or like the circumstances that are shifting in the moment. So it's like presence, like coming back to that present state and choose. It's a choice. It's a choice and like a moment to be like, I bring it in. It doesn't. It's not. It can be someone's regular state of being, but oftentimes we're caught up in all these different things or the past. So to come into the present moment is like a choice and an intention and to be like, oh, here I am. And then whatever's happening in the moment is also present.
So I think some like this particular conversation, I don't think a lot of people typically would have this. And the people that would have this conversation are probably more women than men. For men to tap into, wait, what thoughts, feelings, and emotions are coming up? Because usually we're taught to put those away. And so now it's looking at those emotions and feelings and being like, yeah, okay, yeah, I see how I might feel that way. Okay, now what am I going to do about it? And how am I going to be more in the moment? And that's a big awareness.
Yeah, men have really, as we all have experienced and know, have been told to not express their emotions. Or you said something in our last conversation that stuck with me was like, or the ones you can show are like anger and frustration.
Yeah, or like love or infatuation. Yeah,
It's like everything else box it up, right? Classically, being sad, crying, that's a no. You have to control your emotions. It's which is probably leads to the frustration and the resentment and the thing you're bottling up that
right.
right that comes out. So it's this cycle, and it's easy to like buffer and avoid. And yeah, the conversation oftentimes isn't about like feeling or being in your body or having a certain energetic state. It's about avoiding that. Personally, there's a few men that I'm really grateful, especially in these spaces, that we I do have these conversations with. Mostly, a lot of the healing spaces has been like populated with women, and like men seem to be a rarity. So then when I go to speak to just people I know, friends, people like outside of the spaces that are having these conversations, whether it's like integration or
Yeah.
that kind of thing, yeah, it's like a stark difference where emotions are
Oh
still
yeah. You can literally watch people run away.
you
Um,
can start seeing people's bodies like
yeah.
move through a lot of things and hold it down. And because even when we try to hide it, right, like it in some way or form our body is still holding that emotion somewhere.
Yeah.
See
Well,
that.
it might want to get it out. It just doesn't know how. And so by talking about it, your body can feel it and be like, oh yeah, okay. I know how to let that go. Something came up interesting the other day, similar to this. We were talking about how, oh, don't cry. What really is meant by don't cry is it's okay to cry, just don't stop. Like, get back up on your horse, keep going. But so it got shortened into don't cry, and it never, what I think was really meant by that was like, okay, don't cry. Okay, are you okay? Yeah. Are you physically hurt? No. Okay. All right, jump back on your horse and keep going. And I think you can cry in that process, but it's back and ride the horse or do the thing or something happens in business. It's, oh, don't cry. Don't cry over spilled milk. It's okay, the milk spilled, but what are we gonna do about that? Like maybe it made some great content and it's or maybe we just wipe it up and move on. Or maybe we just like, wow, this milk here on the table, a cow was milked for this stuff and I spilled it. I'm going to let my animals lick it up or whatever. But I think the don't cry got just shortened into don't cry, don't show any of that versus don't cry and make sure you get up and let's keep going. See, that part got left out.
Yeah, you're spot on. There's definitely an element of that. You can feel it. The intention might not be that to stifle someone or stop them from feeling things. It's people say it with a positive tone, but there is actually a longer process at play. And sometimes, for me, if I'm in a state of crying and somebody tells me not to cry, it's I understand that aspect, but it's also this I'm feeling this emotion and don't want to be told to not feel something that my body is feeling. So that's an interesting thing that I noticed that actually, okay, I'm going to feel this, I'm going to move through it, then I'm going to get into a space of cool. I can see and learn from the experience. Like, so it's like allowing the emotion and having like that. It's like everything has a place or a place and time. So it's like crying and then moving to the next phase and moving to the more solution oriented part of it, let's say, it is a process. And I think you're spot on. A lot of times it gets shortened just to don't cry.
So check this out. Were you done with your thought right there?
No, it's like that just feels incomplete. Just hop over to the solution.
Uh, I think this was like 12 years ago, and my bonus son must have been 5 or so. And I'm riding a Razor scooter with big wheels, the big wheel one. And he's riding his bike with training wheels, or I think he had training wheels, maybe not. And we're riding on the levee, and I want to go this way. And he literally didn't even give me a chance to respond. And he rode straight down about 16 steps. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, fuck, his mom's going to kill me. We just started dating. Fuck. And I had all these thoughts and shit go through my head. And I was like, no, I got to focus. I need to run down as fast as I can so that when he crashes into that gate door that's closed, I can tell him, like, I literally raced all the way down there and I'm like, that was so cool, man. And he was like the crying, like I could tell he was about to cry because it was a new experience, right? He literally just was like, wait, what? I was like, that was rad. You had balance the whole way down. Like, you did great. I'm like, let's tell me before you're going to ride downstairs again, though, okay? But it's you're being in that moment. And I didn't say don't cry. I just said, that was fucking rad. Like, you have amazing balance. And like maybe a couple tears came down, but he's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, you did that. I did do that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's not do that again. But it's just like, how do you meet people where they're at, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's an awesome example and a space of like redirection, shifting, just allowing something different. It's interesting with kids because they're learning like from witnessing and they're learning from all these sources. They're looking at the adults, they're looking at the people around them. Sometimes it's interesting when you see a kid fall and then they have that moment of they're about to cry or maybe not and they're looking at you and you're like what way are we gonna go here? It's a very real time situation where we
Yeah.
also our bodies like look and scan the environment and they're like, is this what I'm doing or is that what I'm doing? And there's so much that can come up around that. And I've had interesting, awesome moments with kids where you might have gotten a bump or gotten hurt and they've been able to go into more of a space of resilience and okay, yeah, they got hurt and they're able to be with that and also move into a space of hey, we're all right, and then actually I'm having fun now and I forgot all about it, and it's but they could have just gone
Oh,
down the crying part as well, and then we could have gotten into a as adults, right? Oh, coddling like
the rescuing and all the
yeah, and our programming, right? Whatever our response is to other people's emotions, because that's another thing. There's having your own emotion, and, and then there's responses to people's emotions, and when an emotion is had, there's a response somewhere.
right.
And if we learn ourselves and we know what we're working with, we can also relate to other people when they're experiencing their emotions. And as as humans, as men, as adults, like not everyone is fully equipped with like
Hmm.
the ability to actually allow others to have their emotions and not get into a space of I have to do something about it. Stop, or or it makes me uncomfortable and I have to like try and solve it or leave. Or it's interesting how we respond to other people when they're going through an emotion. And I think sometimes as men we can't handle that. So that's why with the guys and those type of scenarios, let's keep things surface level, because that way it gets into a space of no one is uncomfortable emotionally. And that's a space that can be, people can settle into that, and then we just don't talk about
Well,
these things.
I feel like that's a lot of where things are a little challenging for men like you and me who like are starting like the whole I use that hashtag emerging emotionally intelligent men. And I think that's a little extra challenging for us because we can't say too much to the guys because they can't really handle it yet. And we can't really say too much to the ladies because they don't know how to process those emotions because the emotions that they're used to are baby, I love you, and pissed off and ready to hit the fucking wall. And so then they're suddenly seeing these other emotions of, yeah, I'm thinking about my birthday and I was thinking about this when I was a kid and this when I was like, but then they're like, whoa, fuck, like this, I don't want to deal with this shit. Don't fucking cry. And like the boys are like, why are you being a sissy? And it's whoa, I'm a human being here and I have more emotions than just fuck you and I love you. Can we have a conversation? And it's I think part of that is having more conversations like this, you and me. Other people see us talking and they're like, wait, hold up, what? And then also in general, you have a woman partner and I have a woman partner. It took her like fucking a year or so to be able to hold some of the emotions I have because like they can be pretty intense and like she's not used to that. If I yelled at her, she knows how to handle that. She's been in the ER, she's been in relationships that are like that. But me being like, I'm sad and I feel like something happened and I don't like it and I'd like to change that. And what do you think? That is like scary as fuck because that's foreign. It's not like you can go to the ER and get like a cast for broken arm. It's a whole nother set of things. And so sometimes like men when they're talking about all these other feelings and emotions, they're presenting like a toddler, but they're in a big body. And so that can be scary for women that aren't ready to see that or don't know how to deal with it yet. And so I think it's just like a push and a pull and ebb and a flow like we were talking about earlier. But it's like where are people at and like how much can certain people hold or where do you go with that? And what really has come to my attention is can I learn how to hold myself? And when I can hold
Mhm.
myself, then I can communicate with others where I'm at more easily because it's me. It's not them. It's where I'm at. So I think that's been a real kind of up level for me and learning and understanding is can I be safe for me? Can I be safe? Can I be a safe space for myself? And but then sometimes I'm like, it'd be really nice to talk to someone else, have them reflect back to me where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely. All of that. And it's, you know, I like what you're saying about can I be a safe place for myself? And for me, that's been an unwinding of the self-talk and the at times like maybe punishing myself, like going into these, this is my like strict father programming. It's not even my real dad. It's just a thing I made up, and then I yell at myself through it. And it's that's in a way that I'm carrying that like energy and like wanting to feel my emotions and be in a space to communicate like where I am. But it starts like with just letting go some of that. And that might be coming through the genetic ancestral pipeline, so to say, of all of that could be programmed into our DNAs from the data of our parents, what they might be carrying. So they're starting here and creating a different state, a different energy flow that allows for emotions. And it isn't just you telling yourself, stop crying. You're this, you're a piece of, if you're carrying that, it's gonna it's gonna cause some internal conflict of some sort. So like for me, it's been a letting go of some of that inside. And then as that energy changes, it allows for different conversations with people. Like
Right.
one of the sort of jokes that we play into sometimes with my friends and Annika and my roommate, it's guys don't ask for details or don't ask questions. Or I certainly sometimes don't. I'm like, I see people, I can get deep with them, but I might not ask about details, certain details that are in people's lives. And it's a interesting kind of thing of what do we connect over as men and what conversations do we have with each other. I have found though that since I energetically started shifting, I'm in a space of at least being more my body, acknowledging my emotions, being more authentic. It's allowing that conversation kind of natural with my friends. Okay, I've actually had hangouts with friends that could have been very easy topics of conversations actually get into spaces where I'm really glad you shared your emotions with me. And it's once you open that up, it can start, that's a feedback loop, but it really start with like all the internal talk. And
I don't know. Just I want to jump in real quick to check on something. You said it could be a feedback loop, but what if when you share your emotions, you're no longer in a feedback loop, and
mm,
instead you're like flowing through now because
mm,
you opened that channel up?
yeah,
I don't know. What do you think?
actually that really I like that. I like that a lot. More like a flow,
It's
like
like, did you
opening a
okay?
flow.
Like when you were a kid, did you ever build like a dam in a river or a stream or anything?
Mhm,
Or like even in the gutters, like we used
mhm,
to build like little dams and then float the boats down the road or whatever. And like literally, when there's a blockage, there might be a blockage for a reason because you wanted to build up some water. And then when you break the blockage, now all of a sudden the boats can float and or your emotions can float through or whatever, right? And so it's you're not just having a feedback loop or an eddy current, you're having like actual flow through something. And when stuff flows through, it can bring the other sediments and junk with it. Maybe you don't need that story anymore. Maybe it's not yours or whatever.
mm. That I like that, and that it really feels that way energetically when you open up certain
Yeah.
your floodgates, so to say, with others. Because okay, here's something I wanted to talk to you about in this conversation because
Yeah.
I've noticed it too. We're speaking about how it can be difficult and challenging for men to talk about their emotions, especially because maybe there's a limited spectrum that like society has allowed. Also, though, I've noticed in a lot of spaces that in conversations I've had with people that if you allow and give a space and an opening for someone to share their feelings, it it can be that it's been dammed up so much that actually if you just create a little opening, people will go, they'll be in tears because a lot of times we're holding so much in that you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And someone creating just a space to be able to do that can really lead to some powerful openings. Now, we also, as men, have to like, there can be like so much opening that now we're like in a very vulnerable state, and also be able to, it's not just about getting to a vulnerable state and sharing, it's also what do we do then and how do we support each other during that so that we're able to just have both. Sometimes we can lean into the vulnerability. Sometimes we can choose to like not because it's a different context and just it's not like a you have to go from one extreme to the other.
Right.
I have noticed that once you start opening up a little bit with a lot of men, it
Yeah,
starts coming through.
like that's where you have to check in with like safety and where they're at. And if you go start knocking out a dam that's holding water because there's a little village that lives down below, like that might not be okay. Like maybe you need to divert the water around why you want to repair some of the dam or whatever. And I've seen it like in some like psychedelic spaces. Suddenly men do all these psychedelics, then all these emotions come out, and they can't talk to it with the buddies, and they can't really talk to it with the honeys. And it's where do they put that? And so sometimes they just fucking crash themselves back into whatever they were doing before because they're like, I can't fucking tell people this shit. I'm just gonna put my blinders on and keep doing what I was doing. Or they have all these emotions everywhere and they don't know where to put it, and there's destruction that happens, or they internally collapse because some of those structures were holding up themselves and their career and their ability to make money for their family. And it's okay if you want to go quit your job, like, what's your plan? Do you have 6 months saved up in the bank? Can you survive? Can you pivot your skills quickly? Can you show up online? Can you be real with your partner? Do they know that you're doing this? Do they not know? Like, where are they at? And I just think that, like you said, careful with, like, I saw this TikTok video. There was like a water in the water lake at like the ocean at the beach. Maybe it was in Laguna Beach or something. And some people like chiseled it out, and then all of a sudden it ruined the beach. And it's like, why did you do that? Did you even think ahead of what might happen if you cut through that channel so you can ride your jet skis up and down or whatever they were doing? Did you even think about it? What were your intentions behind that? And sometimes I just did it because it was fun or cool. And if you're doing 5 grams of psychedelics because it was fun or cool, and suddenly you've opened up a channel that you weren't expecting, what are you doing now? And I think that can be, I don't know, it's something I think about with such a shift of everyone wants to legalize psychedelics and use psychedelics for everything. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. What's your plan? You want to knock down some structure in your life and your constructs and see things different? Is your family ready for that? Are you ready for that? Is your job ready for that? Part of me wants to be like, I don't want to like control for the sake of controlling, but I think it's important, even with the dam, if you want to flush the sediment out the bottom, you can't just let it all out at once. You need to move a little bit at a time and flush it out.
Absolutely. That, especially in the psychedelic space, is a real situation. You can go on like expansive journeys. You can dissolve your entire like construct set, and you can reality. You have to be really mindful of that. When you get to a space where like everything dissolves, like some of those things could have been load bearing,
Right.
like
Or
for your structure.
or you, since you didn't think about it, you can invite in structure that you don't. I don't know. I've seen it before too. Like people invite in the structure they don't want, like things they don't want
Absolutely.
to do. And it's, did you do that? And they don't even know because they never set any intentions of what they were doing.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And but when you enter these like transformational spaces and journeys, it really helps to be mindful and to have people who can like you who can relate and speak to it and create a certain type of structure, because I've seen this with people. I've experienced like a version of this myself. You can deconstruct things, but it can take a long time to construct a new version that comes next. And a lot of times we might not get to that space. We can get stuck in like the deconstruction. Nothing is real. Everything, you can go in all types of spaces in the psychedelic realm with, and you could be left with like looking like everything's falling apart as well. So you have to be mindful and also
Yeah.
reconstitute things
It's
for to support yourself.
like I've seen these videos Like Miami got flooded like a year ago, pretty good. And there's all this silt and shit and crap underneath because you broke down the walls. Okay, kind of like psychedelics. You broke the walls.
Mhm.
Now your internal structure is full of shit, and now, or it's your shit or someone else's shit, and you got to clean that out so you know what you want in your building, and you want to redo your building, and there's work involved because otherwise it's just fall down goop, and you're like, what do I really want here? Sometimes things are unintentional. Sometimes you were intentional. And it's like, how do you flow through it? How do you make it happen? Like I've been doing a lot of work around helping people build systems and structure so they can flow. So like helping people materialize the ethereal makes all this sense when you're in the ethereal space. And then you come back to earth and you're like, wait, it made all sense how I was gonna leave my job and do my new yoga studio or whatever. And it's, they don't quite have that structure to materialize. So it's like, how do you materialize the ethereal to the material? And part of that is being safe in yourself and learning how to be safe in yourself so you can do it and you can get out the shovel and you can shovel the shit out of the way so you can build what you really want, like what's really yours. And so I think just helping people through that process is really rewarding. But it's, I can't shovel all of it for them. I can, hey, here's a shovel, and here's how you use the shovel. It might work really good over there, and I can start helping you shovel. But you need to shovel because you might, if I shovel for you, I might throw away things that you want to keep. And the same thing can be applied with like the psychedelics that they do, or the experiences that they have, or the yoga retreats, or the breath work, or whatever. And it's like it's really up to them what they want to release and receive.
There's a lot of good stuff there. There's a lot of good stuff there. And yeah, with something with journeys and getting into the expansive kind of deconstructive space, what I found for me, this is before I really I was looking to learn about my experiences. So I sought information. I started to learn, read books, get into things that would support me in that. And I had a close friend that I could speak to about my experiences that really helped. But one thing that really supported my growth through some of my early psychedelic experiences where it felt like things really got shaken up for me was like to take whatever like analogy, whatever this like grand realization I might have had like that in that moment, and can I translate that, extract the lesson and translate that into something in my life. So for me, it was like, okay, if I remember one of my very early realizations in the psychedelic space in an LSD journey was like, oh, it there's no external reality. It is like a projection of my own consciousness, so to say. And like with something like that, it's hard to put into words, or even if you have words, it starts like what it's a very like cloudy space. And as I explore that idea, which can be a little bit, it felt shook up my whole reality. It was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do with that? And it like led me into a place of okay, understanding myself and what am I projecting? What am I believing in? What do I like? If there is no other reality other than my consciousness, like to understand that, to create like what that could be. So it's like taking a lesson, but actually making it into a bite size and staying with it. That can take many forms, but that's something that helped me. Like just whatever I learn, something that I try to carry anywhere I go. It's like, what's the lesson that I can like extract for myself that I can utilize in some way. So it's that. So you don't leave it all there in the experience, like, and then get shaken up. You have to take something and recontextualize it or into what your life is or where you want to go. So
So I saw this really neat content recently that was like your perception versus perspective. So like you're talking about perception based on your conscious or subconsciousness. But for a second, so that's a narrow view of what we think and feel based on our experiences. But perspective is where you leave your perception and you go see it from a different way outside of yourself, or just seeing what another person might be thinking of the same situation so that you can like have empathy or understanding or whatever. And sometimes that's hard to do for ourselves, but through like meditation and practice or psychedelics and integration, you can actually see yourself or your situation outside of that. And then you can, what you're saying, then you're like, what do I really want to do moving forward? And that's like the integration piece of taking the inspired action from the heavens, the creator, the divine, higher self, whatever you want to call it, and taking the action, aligned actions to carry out what you want to do. And I think sometimes what's interesting for like men getting in touch with their all their emotions and everything, it's like when you can figure out how to hold that, it will help guide you of what you really want to do. But we've been taught not to do that. We've been taught more, oh no, if you get a good job and you get a wife, everything's going to be set for you. And you're like, yeah, everything's going to be set. But then maybe you're not doing what you really love. And so when you're like 40 or 50, you're like, I fucking hate my job and I hate my family. And you're like, wait, why did I go down that path? Did I go down it because like my parents said it was good? And oh man, if you go to college, you're going to be set. And then now you're like, wait, what am I doing? And be aware that you're aware is really important for that.
yeah, the I love what you said about perspective. And even as you're talking about that, we can have a narrow perspective of something, and that can look like just right. There's only this slice of it, this little bit of it, and then to expand the perspective is wait, let me look at it from these different angles, and we have to allow ourselves to do that. Then it gets feels like that's now you're tapping into multi-dimensional space if your perspective starts to shift. Wait, I've only been looking at things from the perspective of the constructs that I've identified with. Okay, what if I look at it from this other perspective? What if I look at it from the perspective, like you said, I'm aware that I'm aware. That's now we're out here. Now it's like we went from two-dimensional to three to four. You can start peeling back and getting into an expansive state. The perspective is a real powerful part of the process of just being a human and being in transformative spaces. Like, where are you now? And are you able to look at something from various angles?
So go ahead with that.
I was just going to say, it reminds me of MC Escher, which interestingly enough really helped me move through the psychedelic experience. And MC Escher has a great illustration of himself holding a sphere, and then it's you're looking at the sphere and the reflection of him inside the sphere, something like that. Where like perspective, you can sometimes be the person, you can sometimes be looking at the spheres, you can be inside the sphere. There's a lot of angles to the
Right.
experience.
So then let's move through life and your awareness and your feelings. Like, how do you set that up for yourself so you could be successful? And it's like, how do you create the structure for flow for yourself and also allow yourself to be creative also and tap into all energetics of yourself, masculine, feminine, all energy, and align that into something that you want to do versus something, yeah, like something you were told to do or suggested or you're going to be set or whatever. You see those graphics that are like The easy way is the hard way, and the hard way is the easy way. And yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's the easy way is once you've done the hard way so many times that it becomes automatic for you. So then the next challenge presents itself. And it's when we can do something and actually confront it and repeat it enough that whatever is hard, whatever, whether we're talking hard as in difficulty or even hard as in the feeling that it can be, sometimes it can feel
Like
hard, but
yeah, like it could be the unknown, right?
it's regardless, it's the more we allow it, confront it, and meet it with less reactivity, even, and just be able to do something and move through it, then it becomes easy. And the challenges are actually opportunities. And that's a space where if we can tap into that and whatever we do, we can shift our perspective from things being like hard or challenging and getting into that flow of this is hard. Now my body feels hard. We're like, okay, I know that the more I confront this, that hard is gonna dissipate and it will become
But
easier,
like, but also there's something to things being hard or difficult in that there's like the feeling of accomplishment by doing those things and feeling like the gratitude of that you're capable of those hard things. I think there's something to be said of does everything need to be easy and go with the flow? No. I think there can be effort where effort wants to be put if you want to do like a challenging workout and you complete it, then you feel like good about it because you're capable of doing it. So I don't think that everything needs to be easy or go with the flow, but I think it's important to have structure for flow and then effort where you want effort.
yeah, like the right level of effort, the right level of ease, so to say. It's like the sweet spot of those things, right? Because if something leans too much in a certain way, it's like it can lack the other thing, or you could be right in a you can be in a polarized like state. So that's what it's giving me right now, that like finding the balance point in those things, because if something's too easy, it might not, it doesn't have the reward of like when you really, you did something that was like challenging and you conquered it, like that growth that comes with that. But if something is too hard, it can be insurmountable at a certain moment. So it's like finding like the edge, and that's really just being right at the edge so you can adjust like to things that are helping you grow at the
Yeah.
same time without, yeah, in a way that I can actually support you, not lean one way or the other.
Not having so much structure that you lose sight of choice. If you have too much structure, it becomes robotic and then you become a human doing versus a human being. And how do you be a human being? You have to have enough structure for flow for yourself, but also function in modern society also, right?
Mm-hmm. Flexible structures or structured flexibility,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like, because I really have experienced this in like teaching with my teaching style as well. Sometimes I want to be prepared, so then I over prepare. I'm too prepared. I'm trying to run the program and I'm too prepared, and something else comes and changes in the moment, and I'm like, the thing I had prepared and this thing, I can't deal with it. And then, okay, I might try the other strategy. I'm fully open. Let's see what happens. And then I'm like, some structure could have really supported me on here. So I learned through my experiences like teaching and that kind of like over preparing anxiety. And then I'm just not going to prepare at all. Like what really helped me was, and this is something I'm learning to apply more now, like structured flexibility like that, or a flexible structure. How can I allow enough for the other thing to present itself? Maybe I have bullet points, I'm hitting my flow, and I
Yeah.
have some space.
When you're talking about structured flexibility and flexible structure, It makes me think of Fibonacci spirals, right? You have the main structure, but then also from them things can spin off, and it's like, can you allow that, and how much of that can you allow, knowing that you can retrace your steps back to the flow of what it is.
Mm, absolutely.
I know how much you like math and fractals, so
Yeah, man. And in music, seeing in the musical context, overtones and the way those can, it's just the same ratio based overlaps and the way they can be. It's like simple recursory patterns, like a simple pattern that can be almost infinitely complex to the point where it meets itself. So, like that kind of thing, can I take some of that in and apply it? Is there a simple building block that I can use and build on that to make complexity? So that sounds abstract, but like when I'm playing or teaching music, let's say music, there can be rhythms, they can be infinitely complex in all sorts of ways. At the same time, their blocks are really made of ones, twos, or threes.
yeah.
Just the way, like when we speak, we could have infinitely complex ways of speaking, communicating, and sharing ideas, but the sounds we're making are like syllables of two and three sounds at a time. It's okay. Once we tap into like with a simple building block, and then we can build from there. That's like applying that to life. So you don't have to see things as like fixed in like this complex structure. It's like knowing a different scale, different points. There's a simple fundamental unit or way that you can build on or reduce to, and we can actually apply that in the way we live our lives.
Yeah, like today we set our intentions to go where the conversation takes us. And that was our intention. And so, but within that, there were times where there were like more structured and direct, like kind of conversation, and we were both like focused on a certain thing. But then that's the ebb and the flow of it, and then also talking about how to incorporate things into your life, how to incorporate things into your business, but more of a conversation and not like you need to do this way and this is the only way. And it's like, well, maybe there's more than one way. And like, how can we look at that outside of what we normally think in our perception and instead go look and see, have some perspective outside of ourselves? For instance, we've been going to a lot of networking events and talking to people, and people are interested in some services and things, and sometimes you see where people are blocking opportunities to have cash flow in their business. And you're like, hey, do you want to talk about this or what? And sometimes they don't. It's okay. And then if I see it in them, I'm also trying to see if I'm seeing that in myself. And so that's been like a thing I'm working with in my business is if I see it in them, do I see it in myself or is it just theirs? Or was it a former version of me that I'm seeing? Or what am I going to do with that information? And so it's been very helpful to be very mindful about it because now I can make changes in my own business. Because as ethereal as we all want to be and like everything, sing kumbaya and be by the fire and all this, like we all still live in the material world and we need to make sure we have cash flow and paying the bills and things are happening and everything. So it's like, how do you do that? And it's by being aware of what in others and being aware and seeing that in yourself if it's applying, and then taking the aligned steps to do something about it. And so that things either flow or have effort where they need effort. And that way you can do what you need to do to fulfill your life's work here on earth.
I love everything about that. I love the ethereal to material. And that's really where the masculine energy is powerful. That's really what it can allow for the creation of the like things that might be unseen or might be cosmic ideas, like actually building that into something tangible, into something that is a part of this reality. And that's where we really have these gifts, like as men, as all humans, we have all of these energies, but
Yeah.
this is where men can really carry and create those structures and be able to bring that into a new reality. As much as on some level we're learning to navigate certain things to allow fuller expression, there's so many untapped gifts and abilities that we've yet to really encounter with ourselves and like collectively with other men as we like start allowing more of ourselves to come, not just the limited like parts, the anger or the like, you got to work. And sometimes we can be in a wounded state of creation, but really these masculine structures to allow the flow. Both of these things are necessary in all
Yes.
configurations, in all inside of us as an individual and also as a collective, as a unit, as partners, as friends. Like that interplay of the flow and the structure that moves it,
Yeah.
that's everywhere.
Online, a lot of the healing spaces have a lot of women. And then I've also met a lot of women that are really good with masculine structure. And I was like, wow, okay. And then for some of them, sometimes I can be an example to them of how to flow in that feminine creativity piece into their masculine structure. And like for them, like helping them reconnect with their own femininity, but as a man helping a woman with connecting with their femininity and them showing me how to connect more with masculinity, I'm like this is something you wouldn't normally see or expect. And that's the thing is, can you leave a little room instead of just predictable path? Can you leave a little room for the unexpected or the possibility of seeing something really amazing come together? And just recently, I helped co-host and promote a retreat that basically turned into a whole weekend thing. It was a cacao ceremony on Friday night with a sound bath and then a static dance, and it went all night. And then in Saturday, and then on Sunday was like the body church intuitive body movement, and then there's like pool party and everything, and it was like building the structure so that all the pieces could happen. Like we literally, it came down to the wire. It was like trying to find the sound bath person, and the cacao was already dialed in. And then we're like, oh, could we also do, right? Here's the possibility part. Could we also find someone to do mocktails? First person didn't work, second person didn't work, third person. She's like, I don't usually do them, but I'm going to give it a try. Great. We had her come. And then I've asked somebody in online, I'm like, and we got the DJ to come out and help with the ecstatic dance. Like we could have had our playlist, but like having a DJ and all that energy there, super cool. So it's, and then who's doing what and how all these things are happening. And that's like where the masculine structure is good. But for me, it was learning to, can I let off a little bit of the structure to allow for the possibility of something cool could happen instead of me trying to control all of it. Because obviously I could make things line up, but would they line up in a way that like all came together? Or would they line up in a way that they're like banging on each other? And so that's where the acceleration and the brakes and finding that balance with all those things comes through.
Yeah, that's a great lesson and example of allowing the space for something else to happen, a new possibility, and that it can come together. There's always an element that we don't know, you know.
Or did we attract the right people to the, because it was a sober event. Do you attract the right people and do you promote to the people that like really want to be there? And like maybe people don't want to be there. It's like, how do you do that and make sure people are having a good time and feel comfortable? So it was nice to see it all come together. And then at the end of it, I made structure for everyone to put the photos and the videos. And I started a template for what went well, not so well, and what should we try next time? And getting people to actually fill it out in the moment. And that's the structure and that's the masculine energy of I need you to fill this out and like pin people down a little bit. That way, when we go do the next party in the big event, we already have most of it dialed in and we know what we want to do for next time. And so then I started seeing this is basically integration, right? And so it's basically, okay, now that we got all this great footage, how are we going to deploy it for the next event? And how do we want to welcome people in and want to bring them into the next event? So it's like all the things we've talked about here, like structure, pattern, what's going on in the cosmos. Do we want to do it on a full moon again? Do we want to do it on a new moon? Like, so it's just all those things like the push and the pull and bringing it together and letting it flow and not trying to hold every little thing and allow for the opportunity for some magic to happen, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it sounds like a ton of fun.
It was great. You guys should come to the next one.
Yeah, yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Yeah, the structure, right? Like it can easily be even just an idea that stayed in the ideas realm. So
Right.
channeling it, and people are supported by that, or things are supported by that. Like when there is, even sometimes when you have to pin people down a little bit, sometimes that has to happen for like things to be more supportive as you're building something.
But yeah, we're trying to build a lot more community with the focus on unity in our area and online. And it's what does that look like? And how do you include more people? And how do you get different groups of people to like talk together and come together?
Hmm.
So it's making sure that everybody's feeling safe and their needs are being met and they feel comfortable. Because if they feel safe, they can connect a little bit better and then they can feel fulfilled. And then also having the place for them to calm down from the party because it's a very expansive space. And like, how do you come down from that and bring it together and make sense of it where it doesn't feel like the crash?
Yeah,
Like,
sounds like you're really
can you
facilitating
hold
that.
all of this?
And I love that you're putting awareness and support into what you're building, what you're creating, how you're gathering people, and how you're facilitating spaces where community come together. Those things, they don't they can happen accidentally, but putting the thought and an intention in it, it's going to support the entire thing coming together. So I love the space that you're creating there for community, which is really it's like a container, it's a flow. It's not just like something that
It went
just
it
got
went
thrown together.
it went really well and like it just all came together and it was really neat to be a part of that and see that and sometimes you hang out with people that are a little more ethereal and then it's nah, I'm gonna bring my fucking material focused magic to this and shine where I shine, right? And let it happen and organize it and promote it and let it happen. And it was cool, but it was also cool to give people a little bit of structure and some leeway to do their own little magic and have their own little stuff. But it's the sound bath lady. She was like, we were talking at the end, and I was like, she said, used an interesting word. Oh, you were like a guardian of the space. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I was a guardian of the space, like letting people in and helping people get settled in and making them feel comfortable. And oh, you could sit here. I thought that was fun and cool. And then I'm like, when I do the rest retreat for men, and also now women want to come too. So maybe we'll do a men's and a co-ed or something. But I think if I set up, if I host them, then I actually want to go separately to something else for me to rest. Because
Hmm.
I think what happens for me is I always get everything going and then I don't fully go in because I'm holding some structure.
Yeah. When you're the person holding space, holding structure, or doing that, you're in a different role, so to say. So
Yeah.
you're going to require some level of support that the people who are part of that space might. You're creating it for them, so
Yeah.
you're the man behind the curtain,
Uh-huh.
so to say.
Making sure everything's working. But I did still have fun and have a good time. I do at some point want to go do something where I just chill. I let everybody else take care of stuff. But me allowing that, I have to give up the reins. I have to, okay, here you go.
Yeah, well,
And knowing they feel comfortable to do that.
That's the beautiful flow of it. Sometimes you can have the reins, knowing, hey, now is my time to let those go and have somebody else take care of that. And I'm in a different role now. That's it's good to know when to lean into what at what time and not just be like I got to control the factors and always having the reins. It's always there's a part of it that's I don't feel safe not being the person in control or having the that as that can be a masculine trait that a lot of people
Right.
have because I don't feel safe not having the reins. And sometimes just allowing yourself to relax or
Yeah, like
taking your space.
without it's easy to have a beer and kind of relax or some beers or something. But like, how do you really relax and like really trust that you're safe to relax, that you don't have to be on guard as a man? And just some women are great at holding space for men. Some men are great at holding space for men. It's like letting yourself sink in. Did you have any other topics you wanted to cover or any final thoughts for today?
No, nothing else. Thank you for this conversation. I love our convos and we flow to some interesting and awesome spaces every time. And I really resonate with so much that we spoke, and it's making me feel like really the communication with men right now feels like a very alive thing that has come up this week alone with like just holding space for people, just speaking. And that's I love how you put it in one of our conversations, men with a large emotional capacity. And it's
Mm.
just that capacity to hold ourselves, be in more authentic space and modeling that and creating a pocket for people to have this conversation is just it's really valuable. So just thank
Right.
you for having me on and getting into it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you too. I'm like trying to figure out like where to meet people where they're at because I think sometimes like you and I have done like kind of a lot of spiritual work and inner work that like we also want to be approachable to people and not like scary. That we're like going to open the floodgates of their emotions. And something Shelly and I are working on is doing that epigenetic hair follicle testing, which is
Mm.
super interesting because it comes up with what's going on in your environment, what's going on in your body, what's are you stressed out? Are your adrenal glands okay? All the stuff. And what's interesting is I think that might be a place where men might be curious, or everybody getting curious about like their body and like looking at that. And then if the emotion stuff comes up with it, then I feel really capable of being able to help them with that ride and also integrating whatever comes up in the hair follicle test. Because some people I've seen already are like scared to do it. They're like, oh, is cancer going to show up? I'm like, it's not exactly going to show up. It's going to show up that your body's a little stressed. And then it'll tell you how to focus on your body to help you through that health opportunity. Or for people that are like going to get chemotherapy, how do you stack the deck in your favor before you do that? So your body is less overwhelmed by that. So you can like focus on the cancer cells and not your body cells. Or you're talking to somebody about they want to get pregnant. And so it's okay. I wonder what's in your hair follicle test to help you get your body lined up and everything good so that you can increase the chances of getting pregnant. And also for her partner too, so that he can like dial in his self. So like all of his sperm and everything is top notch. So I think this will open up some good conversations with men about their health and also bodybuilders who want to like lift weights and be strong and everything. How are you feeling your body and where are you at? I think, and then what I really would like to do is talk to some people like you and other people in like psychedelic space of okay, let's do a hair follicle test before you go to a retreat and let's get your body like nice and dialed in for 30 days. Then you go and then you test again and like really like dial in your physical body and then also have support for the emotional, mental, and spiritual side of yourself. So
That's so interesting.
yeah,
It's how your body relates to the environment and what is being communicated on that genetic level. That sounds fascinating information.
yeah,
I would,
yeah.
I, I would love to know that. information.
It's just like psychedelics. So what are you gonna do with this information? Are you gonna let it sit? Are you gonna marinate? Do you need a plan beforehand so that you can flow into it? And do you have support of your healthcare team and your doctor about what are you going to do with this info? And we've been doing a lot of research about peptides and stuff with the GLP-1, like Ozempic, semaglutide, and all these that have had really profound results. And we're like, okay, if you're losing the weight fast, what about the emotions that are stored with that fat? What are we doing to process those emotions as we're losing weight quickly? And also, like when people lose weight, now suddenly, this happened with Shelly when she did weight loss surgery. Suddenly, you get more attention on yourself, and you're like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that. And
Mhm.
it's like, how do you integrate that experience?
Those are some good conversations. That's some really interesting perspectives that I hadn't really opened up until you started bringing it up. So I would love to tap into some of these convos and some of our next conversations.
Yeah, let's do it
Austin.
on the next one. This is just a little like
Hmm.
sampler. But I just think with like modern living, I think our bodies sometimes really get taxed and our emotional, mental, and spiritual side of our body gets taxed too with the constant saber-toothed tiger and like the notifications all day long and you're constantly being bombarded. And like in hair follicle tests, radiation showed up for Shelly. So was it radiation from the hospital? Was it radiation from her phone? What's going on there? And then for me, it said some heavy metal stuff. And I was like, is this from when I worked in a factory? Is this from food I eat? Is this coming in on from me drinking a bunch of sodas in the pandemic? Like, what? Like, and then it's, what am I going to do with this info? And so as people have been signing up, they're like, you got the range of people. I really want to know and I'm really curious. Or maybe they have a health opportunity and they're like trying to figure it out because the blood work looked good. And then they're like, but I don't feel right. Okay. But some people aren't ready to go into psychedelics and microdosing, but I think a lot of people are willing to do like a hair follicle test, like finding that information and what do they want to do. And then like other people who are like maybe a little older or whatever, and they're like, my brother has died of cancer and my dad has died of cancer, and like, how can I take care of my body so that I can live longer and not worry about it? And it's yeah, we'll do it then. Do the hair follicle test.
Yeah, and bring it into not just the idea, but into an actual like information about yourself that you can do something with. That's really what the epigenetics is teaching us. Like nothing is fixed, even in your genetic. Like things are changeable. They are moldable, but there's also patterns that are in place.
Like the I was in Seattle working in '07 or '08, and I had never had my cholesterol checked, and they had a free check at work, and it came up high. And I was like, I freaked out. And then I was like, how long? Then I was like being rational. I'm like, how long has it been high? Has it been high my whole life? And so now I like got tested genetically, and it's familial high cholesterol. And then, but everything else seems pretty good. And then my hair follicle test was like heavy metals, needing to balance my biome of like bacteria and fungi and getting that more synergized. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do that and then see where my cholesterol's at. Because cholesterol is often produced for inflammation. And so if my body's trying to fight, get rid of heavy metals and also get rid of candida, like, did is that why I'm having higher cholesterol? And so it's like asking these questions and getting in tune with your body and working with your healthcare team so you can optimize your health. And so this has been a lot of data. But as a science person, it's cool, but then also it's like a lot of information about yourself. And it's, okay, what am I going to do with it? And I really liked how they said, here are foods and supplements you should eat. Here's what you shouldn't eat. Here's what you should avoid. And but like when I had kidney stones a year or two ago, they just said, "Don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this," and I'm like, "What am I supposed to eat?" And so with the hair follicle thing, it's eat more of this, eat more of that, try this, avoid this. I'm like, okay, I can flow into that. And so that's the structure I was talking about, of like how to optimize yourself so that you can continue to show up and do your life's work.
And that's a lot of data. You have time to integrate it. It's like something that you can work with, even if it's one thing at a time or one aspect of it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we could do a deeper dive on that next time, but I'm glad we went with the flow and saw the patterns.
Yeah,
Where is structure important? Where is it not so important? How do we communicate and help each other? How do we process information, whether that's psychedelic related information or non psychedelic information? And what are we going to do going forward and implement into our lives so that we show up in the best we can and the best way we can?
yeah, it was really great diving into these topics and also getting into a space of being in the flow and leaning into these conversations and communicating these different ideas. For me, the is so valuable to have this conversation with you with all the varying topics and really right stay present, coming back to that communication, like staying present and being able to flow with it, because sometimes the lack of structure can be a little bit what's going to happen. So it led to some really amazing conversations and topics. So I'm going to be integrating a lot of what we talked about this
Yeah,
week.
me too. I'm going to, I'll get the transcript of it and I'll send you the transcript. And then I'll process it and go slow like we talked about last time.
Yeah, I thank you. It's the 24 hours is good. Although I have this intention, this is something that this is my thing I'm centering on is to look at back at like footage of myself speaking, video, audio, whatever, and be able to be with it and not get into this freaked out space or recoil because I can get into that. So that's I'm just gonna be present with whatever it sounds like, looks like, so I can see that as information and adjust from there. So that's
Right.
something that I really am looking forward to doing as a result of this conversation too. Just like actually listen back to it, see myself, and without getting into the self-critical
I,
space.
yeah, I thought it was good that you communicated with me like, hey, can we slow down a little bit? Because usually I'm just like, get it done, you know? And I think that was good for me to slow down and feel into it. And what do I really want to put out there? And also honor you and Annika's kind of request to go a little slower. Also allowed me the space to go slower, which was
Yeah,
nice for me because then I wasn't putting so much pressure on myself to get it done so fast. But what I would like to do is get the recording and the script, get the transcript, send that over in case there's anything you want to do with it with Chat GPT, ask any further questions. And then I'll put it on YouTube unlisted, like I did last time, 24, 48 hours to look at it. And also for me, instead of just, I don't want to listen to myself.
yeah, no, exactly, and that's a space to grow. And I really appreciate that you do move things forward and are like, let's get it done. I really appreciate that. So I don't lean too much into the space of waiting. So it's this good meeting space of all of it. So I really it's very helpful for me to actually be in that process of learning to see myself and
Well,
so
yeah,
it can't be too much out here. Oh, just hold on. Like it needs to go into the edge. So I appreciate like the fact that
yeah.
you do that.
Like sometimes I get too focused and I need to like wait a little bit. And what I've noticed too was by waiting a little bit, it had a more natural flow to it. Instead of me just like pushing it all through, I could like walk with it and push and pull and push and pull, and that was nice. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. But I'll work it up and I'll put it in and make some reels too with video AI and
Awesome.
feel how to do that. And I think like Wim Hof says, feeling is understanding. So good luck, right? Kind of feeling into it and all that. And right now, like I feel even though I was drinking my herbal tea here, I feel like my throat's dry. I probably need to like drink water, eat food, and get
Hmm.
hydrated again because this is expansive. And now
Hmm.
it's like, what are you doing to integrate? What am I doing to integrate? And then how do we want to show up on the next meeting? Maybe a little more science next time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would love that to like
Yeah.
play off of what we did here. So I would love to go that route next time.
Yeah, trying to meet people where they're at too. Maybe I can meet them with hair follicle testing. Maybe you could meet people with music. Maybe you could meet people with guitar lessons. Like, how can you meet them so you can help them with their emotions? Maybe while they're playing the guitar. It's just how do we bring healing to everybody in a way that's accessible and they feel safe without like destroying the ground floor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of thing really been thinking about and want to build on. So like just meeting people where they're at and also adding that edge, but doing it in a way that's fun. And so you can
Yeah,
have all of that. So that's what I've been really thinking about lately. So
nice.
right on time there. Just want to say that for our next conversation, I realized I'm going down to LA on the first. Wait, no, actually, no, I keep being confused. It's on the second, so we're still on. We're still
It's
on
still
for.
good. Okay. All right. No problem.
I had that moment today and I forgot about it. So
Are you
yeah.
flying down?
Yeah, a friend of mine is having a performance on his birthday, and he like
Nice.
he he's flying us down there. We found these like really cheap tickets for a couple days, so it's gonna
Nice.
be really fun.
Yes, that's awesome. All right. Do you want me to just end this or go off the record and then we can start?
Ah, no, we can end it. I'm feeling also like I gotta get some food, and I've been talking all day, believe it or not,
Oh,
and
for real?
it's been great. But I've been like,
Me too. I had a 10:30 meeting for an hour and a half, and then 12 to 2, I met with somebody else. And
yeah,
last night I was at a networking event. So I feel like my acupuncturist was like, if your throat's dry and you're feeling weird, like maybe you used up a lot of your throat chi. And I was like, I think maybe
yeah,
now it's time I go in, do my computer work, do my magic on the computer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm feeling like. This is the I put a lot of effort this week too into speaking, so it's okay. I
Okay.
need
Yeah, take a break.
to.
And that's the thing too for men is can you still be a man by not always doing shit? Can you just be a man by kick back for a little while and take a break, hydrate, eat your food, whatever, do your thing. So
Absolutely, man.
to be continued.